She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
When you're the Obamas, there's quite a bit that you need. For instance, this beautiful home in Washington, D.C., in the Kalorama district, the most exclusive neighborhood. This is the Martha's Vineyard home. This is the home in Hawaii that's still under construction. That's 3 of their multi-million-dollar mansions. Last night, it was Obama night at the Democratic National Convention, and it was interesting to see some of the things that were said. You know, Michelle Obama at one point said, "Are you sensing that we finally, after a long, long time, we've got hope back? Hope is back, America." And I'm thinking to myself, your guy is literally in the White House right now. And by the way, this is an insult to Hillary Clinton, too. Like when they say hope is making a comeback in America, and it's been a long time since we felt this way, they're talking about themselves. They're narcissists. They've got egos the size of the United Center in Chicago. I'm shocked that they were both able to fit into the room. And they're talking about, oh, finally, we're bringing back the Obama magic. Who's that an insult to? Not just Biden. Hillary. I've told you this before. They all hate each other. Oh, the Obamas hate Hillary. Absolutely. And Hillary hates Obama right back. The difference between Democrats and Republicans who hate each other is that they're able to fake it more, the Democrats are. So Michelle Obama's doing all this stuff, and I was, oh, we're bringing hope back. We're bringing hope back. And Biden's out in California, and Hillary's, drunk in a puddle of Chardonnay, and they're both like, hey, I'm sitting right here. What are you doing? And then Michelle Obama said this.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed. They understood that it wasn't enough for their kids to thrive if everyone else around us was drowning. So my mother volunteered at the local school.
All right. A couple of things here are risable. Let me just say flat out, for her to say that on national television, in that room with a straight face, she's what a set of balls on her to do that. That takes real cojones. It is absolutely, and I bounce between being sad and frustrated and absolutely white rage angry at this kind of gaslighting. Let me explain the sad and frustrated part first. Let's go to the beginning here.
You see, my mom, in her steady, quiet way, lived out that striving sense of hope every single day of her life. She believed that all children, all people have value, that anyone can succeed if given the opportunity.
All right.
She and my father.
So we'll start there. She talks a lot about her mother and her mother's principles and values that she instilled in young Mrs. Obama, and the fact that she thought that children, if they work hard enough and do the right thing, they can achieve anything. She talks about how her father had to work 2 jobs, and he would come home at night so exhausted that he would fall asleep in his chair instead of going to bed because he had to work so hard to make enough money to give his children a good life. And she tells these stories about her parents as if this is all so horrible, what they had to endure. And I hear those stories and I think about my own parents, and you probably do as well. Or maybe you think about yourself doing the same thing for your kids right now. And I hear that and I think, that's fantastic. Your dad sounds amazing. Your mother sounds amazing. Why are you trying to steal from them the dignity of their principles and their values and their morals and their work ethic by suggesting that there's something wrong with working two jobs so that your children can grow up and go to Princeton and get an education and marry a man who becomes president of the United States? Your mother's right. Anybody can grow up if they do the right thing and make the right choices and better themselves. They can achieve anything they want in this country. That's what makes America so great. Why are you constantly crapping on it? And why are you trying to upend our society that has been built on those very same values and principles that allowed you to succeed because of your parents' hard work, and create a brand new culture in this country that doesn't at all reward that kind of effort, in fact, talks down about that effort and suggests that the only reason why people don't succeed is because of institutional racism. You are living proof that institutional racism is a lie. And yet they use their own wonderful family experiences to drag down this country and the very institutions that have been created because of those principles and values. And that's why I get very frustrated and sad. And now here comes the rage.
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Now, when a politician, and make no mistake, this one right here is a politician. When a politician tells a story about their family and things that their parents used to say and do and tell them, first of all, usually it's a crock. It's something that a speechwriter wrote, and they say, oh, yeah, I can get away with saying this. And secondly, it's designed to lecture you. See, whenever a politician says, you know, my dad always used to say, it's their way of lecturing you. My dad used to lecture me, and he used to tell me this. And I'm now saying it to you, and I'm lecturing you. And Michelle Obama is lecturing you that there's something wrong with you if you take more than you need. Now, listen, it's a beautiful sentiment, I suppose, except when one sort of plays this out in terms of political policy, because you see, this isn't a sermon at a church, and this isn't a self-help group, and this isn't a self-improvement book that you're reading. This is a political convention where this political party who's espousing this whole idea that there's something wrong or suspicious, as she put it, of people who take more than they need, they're suggesting then that if they get into power, they're going to do something about that through the force and might of government. So let's play this out, shall we? The first question, and the only question really that needs to be asked here, which you will never get an answer to, is who exactly decides how much you need? Who gets to decide that, oh, you've taken more than you need? I've decided that you don't need that much, right? Who gets to make that decision? And since this one is delivering the speech and the lecture to you in the confines of a political convention where they're trying to acquire power and exercise it over our lives, I guess we're to assume that it's her and her husband that get to decide how much is enough. What was it your parents used to be suspicious of?
Anyone can succeed if given the opportunity. She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
I want you to know that the net worth of Michelle and Barack Obama right now is close to $1 billion. 16 years ago, when Michelle Obama became First Lady, she bragged about the fact that she still had student loan debt, and that she and her husband, who was a lifetime government employee, elected official, and community organizer, had trouble making ends meet with the pile of student debt that they still had to deal with their Ivy League educations. Now, part of that is because Barack Obama made the life choice to get an Ivy League law degree and then use it for community organizing purposes, which, you know, doesn't necessarily pay much unless you can then fake your way into an elected position, then a senator, and then the White House. Nevertheless, 16 years ago, they were in debt when they moved into the White House. Now, 16 years later, never having any real job other than government jobs, they are close to being worth $1 billion. But, the last thing you should do is take more than you need. That's very suspicious. But, when you're the Obamas, there's quite a bit that you need. For instance, this beautiful home in Washington, D.C., in the Kalorama district, the most exclusive neighborhood. This isn't the latest picture of the home because they've actually built a giant wall around it for protection, privacy, and security purposes. But that's not the only home they have. This is an aerial shot of the home they have in Hawaii, I believe. Home is one word for it. Another would be mansion. And then, of course, oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. This is the Martha's Vineyard home. This is the home in Hawaii that's still under construction. That's 3 of their multi-million-dollar mansions. But I'm sorry, Michelle, what was it again that your parents were suspicious of?
She and my father didn't aspire to be wealthy. In fact, they were suspicious of folks who took more than they needed.
Like this mansion and this mansion and that mansion. I mean, listen, I don't begrudge them their wealth. My problem is that they acquire it without actually doing a real job or contributing anything to the economy. And then they stand up there, literally wag their finger at us and lecture us about wanting to get our share. But based on their measure, I guess this is the appropriate amount that you need. So, there's nothing suspicious about you wanting a net worth close to $1 billion and multiple mansions all around the country. Her parents would be fine with that. And so is she. Which brings us to Bernie Sanders last night, who, again, I feel like somebody should tell them. Somebody should tell them that Joe Biden is, in fact, currently the president of the United States.
We need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class.
Now, I want you to know that Bernie Sanders, 8 years ago when he first ran for president, that same line was, we need an economy for all that works, not just for the millionaire class. Now he's changed it to billionaire.
Fine. We need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class.
Right. The reason he's modified that is because he now is, in fact, a millionaire. And, he can't get caught up in that. So you heard the crowd. In fact, let's listen to this sustained applause from the delegates at the Democratic National Convention, hearing Bernie Sanders scream about the billionaire class and how the economy needs to work for people. By the way, again, can I just point out that 12 of the last 16 years, Democrats have had power in the White House. And of the 4 years they didn't, 2 of those years, Democrats had power in the House and the Senate. So when Bernie Sanders gets up there with his spittle flying and says, we need an economy that works for everyone, not just the billionaire class, who in the created this economy? I mean, who is he running against? They're literally the incumbent party asking for 4 more years. That said, listen to the sustained applause from the Democrats at the United Center at the idea that we've got to rip the power away from the billionaires.
My fellow.
That's right. Huge ovation for that. Almost as big an ovation for the very next speaker, Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, a billionaire. And he got up there and bragged about it.
Thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire.
I think the applause was actually bigger for the actual billionaire than Bernie screaming about how we've got to stop catering to the billionaires. I'm not sure. It could be a wash. But boy, the hypocrisy involved in this escapade last night. We've got to stop catering to the billionaires. Very next speaker. I'm a billionaire. Yay! See, they love their billionaires. As long as you use money to give us power, we're fine with it. By the way, he wasn't the only one. Jordan Schachtel laid it out here. These are the speaker's net worth just last night. Jack Schlosselberg, son of Caroline Kennedy, he's going to inherit $100 million. J.B. Pritzker, as I said, founder of the Hyatt hotel chain, his inherited wealth, $3.6 billion. Doug Emhoff is worth over $10 million by suing people, and then Barack and Michelle Obama, their net worth, actually, it's higher than that, Jordan, I'm quite sure. But let's say it's $100 million. Those were last night's speakers. But, they're for the common man. And they're constantly decrying Donald Trump for being out of touch and for being the one who represents the elite and the wealthy.